Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. In the previous video I talked about the Git and GitHub and I hope you had a good grasp of what is a Git repository and what is the importance of using Git and GitHub to make your life easier while developing a certain coding project. Now in today's video I'm gonna dive deeper into the creation of a local Git repository and show you the basic commands to navigate this repository effectively. So without any further ado, let's get started. So as I mentioned in the previous video, you have to distinguish between two different repositories. You have the local Git repository that you will create on your system, on your computer, and you have the remote repository that is hosted on GitHub, which is a cloud-based hub. Now we are going to focus right now on the local repository. So the first thing we are going to do is to create a certain directory for your project. So in this case, I'm gonna call it GitHub repository. I put it on my desktop, GitHub repo. So right now we are going to put our coding project in here, our software development project in here, and we are going to create a Git version control for it. So how to do that? First, inside this project directory, you have to open a terminal. And then we will use the command git init. And this will initialize a Git version control for your project. As you can see in here, a directory called .git was created. If you cannot see it, make sure to press on this directory with your mouse and use Ctrl H to hide it and Ctrl H to make it appear. So as you can see here, it's a bunch of files and directories, and these are used to track the progress of your project, to create a history that will track the modifications as you work on your software development project. Now, before I proceed, I have to clarify and explain some important concepts. So I prepared some diagrams and photos to make it easier for me to explain these ideas. So when you are dealing with Git version control inside your project, you have to distinguish between three different areas that your modifications, your project modifications, will go through in order. Okay? So let's start with the working directory. This is the directory that you are using to develop your project. So in this case, it is this one, home desktop GitHub repo. This is the working directory. So here we are going to put the different files related to our project, the different scripts, we are going to apply the modifications and so on. Now, after doing this, you will have to filter out your modifications because sometimes you might not be sure about certain modifications that you applied in your project, but you are 100% sure about the rest of the modifications. So the modifications that you are sure about, you are going to promote them to the next level, which is called the staging area. So you are going to stage your changes or your modifications, and they will become right here in this level, on this level. And after doing this, you are going to commit your modifications and make them become part of the commit history. So we are going to promote them again from the staging to the commit history. And once they are in the commit history, you can access them anytime you want. So the commit history is a history line with the different versions of your project that hold the different modifications that you committed. So at any time, if you feel that you need to go back to a certain version of your project to investigate something, or even to revert some modifications that you did and you regretted later on, you want to revert back to an earlier version, you can do that by accessing the commit history that will show you the history line of your project, of the work that you have done on your project across time. So this is similar to relationships, right? So you start with the first date, which is in here, and then you promote your commitment to the next level after a couple of dates. You take things to the next level, and then finally you get married, husband and wife. So this is the highest level of commitment, okay? So these are the levels that your modifications should go through in order. And we are going to see how to do that using the terminal in a moment. Okay, so once you understand these concepts, we can now move on to apply them, okay? So I prepared two simple Python documents in here. It can be anything. My objective is to show you how to handle your Git repository locally on your computer. So as you can see, it's a simple Python script that will allow you to enter your first name and print it. The second one is doing the same thing but with your last name, okay? So I will take these two documents and put them in here. Once I put them in here, I can use the command git status. And by the way, you don't have to worry about the commands that I'm using with Git right now, because these can be easily found online. My objective is not to teach you the commands themselves, but to show you what is the way of thinking in order to navigate the GitHub or the Git repositories effectively. And actually, I can show you quickly. You can head to the following URL link in order to see the documentation, the Git documentation. You can go to the reference manual and you can see the different commands that can be used for different things. For example, right here we are in the initialization level. So if you go to init, you can find git init command with all the different details about it. All right. So don't worry, I will put this link in the description down below. Now let's continue. And this git status will show you what's going on in your repo, okay? For instance, in here, you are on the branch master. I'm gonna talk about that later on. You don't have commits yet. We are going to discuss what is a commit. And you have untracked files, okay? So this is basically telling me that I have added two Python scripts, first name script and last name script, which is something I did actually. But then it's telling me that they are untracked. So this means my modifications are still inside the workspace. So my modifications are still in here, okay? Now, nothing added to commit, but untracked files present, okay? Great. Now what we are going to do next is to take these modifications, or one of these modifications, to the staging level. I want to stage this modification. How to do that? We are going to use git add, and then we're gonna call the file or the modification that I want to filter, that I want to promote to the staging area. So here we go. Now if you use it, check git the status again, you will see that, okay, we have one staged modification, which is the file that I have just staged, and then the rest is still untracked or unstaged. Okay, beautiful. Now let's say that I changed my mind and I want to unstage this change and demote it back to the working directory from the staging area. So the way to do it, if you didn't perform any commit yet in your GitHub, in your Git repository, sorry, you have to use the following command. And this will actually demote your staged modifications back to the working directory. So if you are unsure what did you stage, you can always use dot. This will point to the current directory. So this means all the staged modifications in this repo will be demoted. Okay? Make sure to use the R for recursive. And again, this command is used before you perform any commit in your Git repository. So as you can see, we have removed the first name script.py, which was the only staged modification. Now if we check with our git status again, you will see that again you have two untracked files. Now let's stage both files this time. Or actually, I'm gonna keep it for the first script. If you want to add all the modifications, you can use dot instead of specifying the name of the file, alright? Okay, once we are there, now if we want to take things to the next level, which is the commit, you have to use git commit m, and you can call it anything, just make sure it's descriptive. For the sake of this video, we are going to stick with the name initial commit, which is good enough for now. And this will take all the staged commits that were promoted to the stage area using the git add command, and then promote them to the commit history. So right now you can see that one file was changed, and right now if we want to check the git status, you will see that you have an untracked file, the last name, but the other file is apparently in the commit history right now. So how to check the commit history? You will use git log. So as you can see, there's only one commit. It has a hash index in here, and then you can see the name, my name, and my email, and I specified those. If you remember in the previous video, you can check out this video again to see how I did that when I configured my Git system on my PC. And then you have the date, and then you have the name of the commit, so that you know what is this commit all about. Okay? Now, after performing a commit, let's say that I want to perform a git add, and then I want to perform it on the last name script.py. So right now you can see that we have an unstaged modification. We have a staged modification, sorry. And right now, if I want to unstage it, I don't advise you to use the git cached command that I used before, because I told you this is only used before you perform a commit, okay? But otherwise, you should stick to this command, git restore staged dot. So this will make sure to scan all the staged modifications inside the current repository and unstage them, take them back to the workspace or to the working directory level. And we are going to perform this right now. If we check the git status, you will see that the last name script is again unstaged. And it's very important to go in order when you promote your modifications. So you start with the working directory, you should go to the staging, and then you will go to the commit history. You cannot skip any level, all right? So that's pretty much it regarding the comments. So right now you have an understanding of how to create a local repo and apply modifications and promote the modifications across the different areas that we discussed. Now, if you remember, when we checked the git status, we saw something called the branch master. So I want to give you an overview about the branches because it's an important concept, and I prepared a quick illustration for that to help me clarify the idea. So just like any version control system, you will have a branch or multiple branches to keep track of the progress of your work inside your project. So by default, when you start, you will have the main branch, or in this case it's called master. In certain repositories you will see they will call it main. So either way, like, it's the same thing. So this is the primary branch that will track the progress of your project. And every single time you perform a commit, it will appear as a point in here, okay? Think about it like that. So think about the commit as a milestone that represents certain important modifications that you committed, and you can browse back into this milestone that represents a certain version of your work, okay? So this is what's happening on the main branch. Now, sometimes if you are working with your teammates and, for example, someone discovered a bug, in this case, instead of diving deeper into the debugging process on the main branch and possibly creating a mess, it's better to keep things organized and clean. So in this case, you or your teammates, or one of your teammates, should branch out of the main or the master and create a separate branch, let's call it the debug branch, where multiple milestones or commits can be created until we resolve the bug. And after doing this, after solving this mess, we can merge back into the main and then destroy this branch entirely as if it didn't exist. Okay? And after that, you will come back to the main branch, and everything is clean, everything is linear, everything is organized. So this is the concept of branching and the importance of creating multiple branches to keep your work very clear and clean. But I'm going to create a separate video later on to dive deeper into the branching concepts. But for now, I wanted to give you an overview so that you understand what's going on. Now, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching. In the next video, I'm gonna show you how to create a remote repository and how to communicate or synchronize the local and the remote Git repositories. So for now, I bid you farewell, and if you like this video, please press the like button and do not forget to subscribe, and I see you guys the next time.